So forgive my appearance. Uh, I was putting together the finalizing the Sasquatch documentary. That's for Beyond Room 3. I think you'll like it. The trailer has just been released, so check that out. There's a lot to talk about today, so this might be a long video, even though the title is What's Missing. Well, when the truth of things are usually what is left unspoken. Like a dark family secret is never spoken about. That kind of a thing. Someone's dreadful past. They won't bring it up. They don't talk about it. And within that parentheses, that gap, often the biggest truth of all is not hidden, but it's there. It's just there. And it's what's not spoken about. What's not spoken about and what's not mentioned is usually the most important thing of all. Now, I want to talk about this Alec Baldwin thing that's happened this week to today. It was a horrific tragedy where apparently on a set of a film or a TV series or something that he's directing or whatever, one of the senior staff was a very attractive young woman, was shot dead by him, we're told accidentally or somehow, with a prop gun, and also the director was injured. Now, this makes no sense to me. I know Brandon Lee was shot on the set. It was a scene where people were firing at him, and there was accidentally a bullet, so we're told, got into one of the guns and killed him. And there was a scene where he was being shot at by loads of guys, so he was being directly shot at. Now, how someone is shot with a prop gun who's not in a scene where guns are being fired at them makes no sense to me. Yeah, I know guns can be accidentally discharged, they can be put on tables, they can be not fall on the floor, or there can be someone just looking at arse about and it goes off. These things happen. We know that. Now, we also know that insurance companies make enormous demands off TV and movie production. Anyone who's ever seen a TV or a movie scene being made, there's always health and safety people there who check everything, triple check everything, because they have lawsuits. And when you go actually see a TV show being made, there was one in the village where I live was made, a romantic show that was made for the BBC or some shit, about two kids in love or something. And the BBC, it was set up like a movie, they're like the BBC, like a movie series show, and they set up lights and unbelievable towers and gantries and everything. And you realise, Jesus, this is something making a film, a mainstream film or TV thing. So it's a big deal. And that's why you have health and safety, it's rigging and scaffolding and grips and gaffers and all this kind of thing. Best boy, whatever that is. And so you have all that going on. And how a loaded gun with live ammo got onto a set like that is weird enough as it is. But the fact that the gun shot someone who wasn't in a scene where gun firing happens. So usually people killed in movie sets, it's usually, that was the film where the helicopter, I guess who it was, it's John Landis film back in the 80s, where an actor and a kid were killed by a helicopter blade that hit them when a helicopter crashed in a scene. And again, Brandon Lee. Alec Baldwin, I'm not right there. Now, we do know, let's say what we do know about Baldwin. We know he has a vicious temper. This has been well known about him. Ace's explosive temper. His tweets are often, for a guy who's like against guns, his tweets are often someone shoot this bastard and stuff like that, like really nasty, and this kind of thing. And apparently he gave his spouse and his kids a hard time, which, that could be taken out of context. We'll just ignore that one for now. But he definitely seems to have an explosive temper. Now, you've heard me talk about the Trump curse. That anyone who attacks Trump in a vicious or hateful manner, their lives are destroyed. Kathy Griffin, talked about that one. Your man Charlie Rose, lots of them. And now it's now it's his turn. So like this magical blowback there. It's the weirdest thing, but it's definitely the Trump curse. So did Alec Baldwin murder these people? Try to murder this girl? Shoot her and then try to, did he try to commit murder? We don't know. Someone with that level of temper holding it would be like that, Who the fuck do you think? Bang bang, like, especially if he's like the boss of the thing, which he would be. Now, I've worked with head case bosses who would do things like that if they had a gun. One asshole tried to kick me off a ladder, because he didn't like the way I was doing something. I mean, when I was a kid, there's head cases out there, and he has that element about him. But again, this is for the courts to decide. In the USA, celebrities don't go to prison. So even if they had a video of him deliberately doing it, he still wouldn't go to prison, because that's just how America is. They don't lock their celebrities up. And because they're gods. Look at the O.J. Simpson thing, unbelievable. He got away with that. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, that one. You look at his tweets, he's almost like a living version of the Simpsons. He predicted all this almost. It's just bizarre. Even there was a film called The Hunt for Red October, and the post has Sean Connery on it, but the top of the submarine sticking out of water almost looks like a needle, a syringe. It's just weird. But that's just another thing. Here people say, was he an Illuminati sacrifice? No, he wasn't. There's nothing like that. That's you get a lot out of the truthers on the skunk. Nah, if you're going to ask me a question, I would say I cannot believe it was an accident. I can't believe there was a loaded gun on the set. I just can't believe it. Okay, I just can't. Now, let's get back into other things. What's missing? Title of this video. Where have all the SJWs gone? Okay, they're not marching in the streets because of like the Rona and things like that, but they could. But where have they all gone? I don't see them on Twitter anymore in the numbers they used to be. I don't see them anywhere in the numbers they used to be. I think they're all dead. I think they're all dead, or else they've been neurologically damaged by the needlecraft. I think they're all dead or neurologically damaged by the needlecraft. I think the needlecraft, kamikaze, I think a lot of them kill themselves. I've also noticed that, again, the thing of what's missing. You see, it's interesting that the SJWs were, they attached fighting racism to taking the needlecraft, which only that kind of mind could actually do that. Only a left-wing liberal mind could do that. Somehow correlate the two. And so in order to fight the fash, all these lefties and SJWs all went out and got needlecraft. And they're either all dead or they've been cognitively damaged. And I'm not saying anyone gets needlecraft, this happens to them, but it happens to a lot of them. And they would have been the first to run out and say, like, get that shit inside me. I've noticed they've all gone. At the beginning of the lockdown, right in the middle of the first heavy lockdown, there was BLM marches all over the place, and there was a big one in Dublin. It was all white students in it. Right, that was if they were so afraid of the Rona, why were they marching with no masks on them in the middle of the hard part of the lockdown? And you had them in London and everywhere else as well. Where are they all now? I think many of them are either dead or they're cognitively impaired now from the clot shot from the needlecraft. We're still seeing people stopping at the side of the roads, going into neighborhoods they don't know why, getting into their cars, driving, and then stopping and not knowing why they're in their car or where they were going. And not just old people, all age groups, young people too. And a lot of this is becoming revealed on things like Google Maps. Or, Facebook check-ins is a good one. People will do a Facebook check-in. Someone who lives in London will do a Facebook check-in from Milton Keynes, and their friends will be saying, "What are you doing in Milton Keynes?" And they won't answer them back, and they'll take down the Facebook check-in. They're trying to figure out why they're in Milton Keynes as well. The Atlantic magazine had a very good article on this, talking about people who drive and don't know where they're going or why they're going. And a friend of mine in England was telling me they lived in a cul-de-sac, and they were driving in and looking around like this, like, what am I doing here? And they're all, as I said to someone the other day, I can't tell the difference between the life-size Halloween decorations, the life-size ones of ghouls and zombies and corpses, and many of the fuckers who've been needlecrafted. They look just as sick and dead and dying. I mean, a huge number of the population this year doesn't have to actually wear a fucking Halloween mask. All they have to do is make sure that they've had all their needlecraft shots. But they look awful. A lot of people have noticed that as well. There's one guy I work with, and a civil servant he is, and I don't particularly like him, but I don't hate him or have any problems with him. I don't trust him, and he looks like he looks like fucking Gollum now. And he looks like fucking Gollum. And he's aged, rapid aging, like unbelievable aging he's gone through in a short time. And I told you, the other ones, they've all seemed to have lost their spark of life. Now, I'm not, if you want to go out there and get this thing, that's your own business. I know some people have been forced into it by their jobs and stuff like that, because if they work in, caring and stuff like that. No, let's not go slag off people who have this thing. There's also non-stop fear and terror and propaganda. But there's something not right with so many people that got it. And a lot of them have gone. The roads are empty these days. Now, I'm not gloating, but there's one person I know whose job involved the tour guide stuff, right? Now, he was slagging me off on Facebook at the start of the whole scam, the whole ping pong, and real smug, like, oh, the usual one, like the kind of one. Oh, so you're a virologist, you're a scientist. These not a crap, 9 times out of 10, the ones who are saying you like trust the science are people who watch like fucking EastEnders and read The Sun. And he was one of these types. And I just blocked him. But anyway, he's declared bankruptcy this week. I'm not gloating. And why? Because the kind of people that would go on his tours would be the kind of people, they would be kind of hippie type people, who wouldn't take the needlecraft. So it's a classic case of, this is what you want, this is what you got, kind of thing. And again, I'm not gloating. It's not good that he's lost his business, but so many people at the start, not only, you can still at the beginning, even if there was a little bit at the beginning, even I was going, Jesus, is this for real? For a while, for a short while, and then I realised that this is all bollocks. and it's just a flu or something like that, or a severe flu. Especially when I got it, I've had it twice now, and twice it was like a funny old flu. That's the way to describe it. And and Puriton, Bovril, and lots of hot meals, and it was fine. Rest. Yeah, I did lose a sense of taste for a bit, not dramatically, and the dreams were the weirdest part. The dreams are all just off the scale, and still are, funny enough. But it didn't affect me any other way. Like, but I'm still up for the crack and everything, and it made me realize I don't need pubs anymore. That's what it made me realize. Funny enough, but yeah. So I mean, he's lost his business now, but he did everything the government told him. He was a good little boy, and they destroyed him too. And someone was saying the other day, do you ever notice the ones screaming for their boosters are the most unhealthy looking fuckers you'll ever see? And here they are, they're the ones who be screaming, it's the ones who didn't take the needlecraft are killing the rest of us, that thing hasn't flown really. They tried really hard to do that one, and it didn't fly. And we're definitely, I think a lot of people now not a lot of people, some people now have finally come to understand that it is a spiritual battle. I think especially when the likes of Tony Blair, if there's someone on this earth who's a demon, the way you hear like Alex Jones go on about, these people are demons, they smell sulfur, they're demons, this kind of thing, and David Icke says they're shape-shifting reptilians. Well, there's one of them that actually you could get a hardened skeptic and make them believe it would be Tony Blair. And when Tony Blair stepped in centre stage as some kind of great statesman of the needlecraft, you knew then that the forces of evil were behind this thing, or the forces of darkness, what you want to call it, were behind this thing, because that's what his appeal. That's what naturally appeals to him, and. I think even some people, but then again, you look at the Guardian newspaper, and they were all fawning over Colin Powell, like mass murdering psychopath, who God knows how many hundreds of thousands he had killed over a PowerPoint slideshow of water tanks, a water treatment facility, and the Guardian's fawning over him because he died of the ping pong. It's just it's unbelievable. Like, now that's cognitive impairment. See, a lot, you look at, all the ones who banged the pots and pans in England, the pot bangers, on the Thursday night thing, a lot of them be dead as well. Or be sitting at home like this, in front of the TV. I was like, and I'm seeing that more and more, that people walking around like this, and that's because they've had their double needlecraft. And I'm not saying that all of it like that, but you can see them on the roads. You can see them on the. I saw about the guy who came to the lake and he kept switching the blower heater on. You didn't know why. He like this. A lot of mouths are hanging open. A friend in Germany, Facebook friend in Germany, who's a music teacher, a vocal coach, actually is back to work and was availed of a list of the people, the students who had taken the needlecraft, and so could have and knew exactly who in the class had it and hadn't, because under the school rules you have to declare if you had it or hadn't got it. So she had perfect control subjects to go by, and she was saying that like exactly the ones that she thought would take the needlecraft, just no questions asked, did just that, and the ones that she suspected wouldn't take it didn't take it. So you see, like, humanity is definitely splitting down the middle. But she said the ones who took it, and she wasn't gloating. She sounded quite very concerned. She said that they've definitely been cognitively wrecked, and they seem to have a state of fear in their eyes. That's like, and also There's one I haven't noticed, but there's something not right with their skin. Although, having said that, I think I have noticed in that fella that when I was telling you about his civil servant there, around looks like Gollum. There is something. There is a kind of a shade of death in his skin tone that I find that I've seen in a few others. And have you noticed also that there's loads and loads of ambulances on the roads? Everywhere I'm seeing more ambulances than ever. That's all. That's all. Bring out your dead. I've had the needlecraft, but also they've switched the sirens off, because even what was happening was there was so many ambulances on the road picking up the dead or the dying from needlecraft, the ones having blood clots and heart attacks and all that shit. They were afraid. There were so many sirens going off that they were afraid that the more sentient NPCs might go, why is there so many sirens on the road? Like, two ambulances just went by. I can see the main road here. Two ambulances just went by. And ambulance drivers are working overtime. So are undertakers. And when you have hospital staff calling up Irish radio shows and saying, well, I've never seen so many heart attacks and so many strokes as this year, and they can't put one and one together and come up with needlecraft. I've never seen cognitive dissonance like it in my life. Never in my life. And it's going to be very interesting. They're getting far. You can see there's a viciousness now, a new level of viciousness coming into the political class now, and the mainstream media, who have a vicious hatred of the ordinary person, and they want to wreck Christmas, and they want massive lockdowns and all this stuff. I mean, all you have to do is watch that. Your man Dan Andrews in Victoria. He's like he's like an NPC robot. You see, he doesn't have a mind of his own. He's a programmed robot. He's rap and robot is here to say you're going to be locked in for nearly all of 2022. This kind of thing. Dang it! Another fucking ambulance. I mean. And I've noticed a lot of private ambulances on the road, and things like the St. John's Ambulance Brigade and the Knights of Malta ambulances everywhere. But here we go. It's they turn the sirens off now, because the more sentient NPCs were figuring out there's something not right here. Well, they weren't figuring it out, but they were afraid they were going to figure it out. Because but that's all. The modern version of the plague doctor, the plague wagon. Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! The modern version of that is an ambulance picking up a normie who's dead or dying from needlecraft, and then driving to the morgue or to the emergency room with the siren off. That's a new version of bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! So then you have to ask yourself, are they deliberately doing this so the likes of us who say no are the ones they want to keep alive? That's another thing you worry about, and then you wonder about. And then it's still happening. Every feckin' day, a story about asteroids near me. Every day. And don't give me this thing that it comes up on my news. It's all over everyone's news. It's not just because I'm interested in this. It's coming up everywhere on all the news sites and everyone's page. It's coming up on everyone's news feed. Then you have to worry, are we back to the cover story for this thing again? Are we entering an area, and is this a humane killing? Because when are we entering a part, like something, another massive thing the size of the moon slammed into Jupiter the other day. That's 2 of them now in a week. Ever since Uma, we seem to have entered into a part of the solar system where it's really dangerous. are part of the galaxy that's really dangerous. It's also just moved into it, and we're being bombarded. We haven't been hit yet, but we've definitely been bombarded. And for one of the two, it's an alien race flinging these things at us like a war, and it's a cover story for something else. It definitely is. Or if the needlecraft is an invasion force, like there's some kind of life inside that, and if that's why they possessed all the the, the political class, it would just I could believe anything at this. The world is so strange. I could believe anything at this point. But that's like every day an asteroid day. It's unbelievable, and we shall find out and see what happens. We shall find out and see what happens. But yeah, I think that's where. Like, I'm looking at the road. It used to be so, and it's just empty now. And one of the comfort angels got all the Irish obituaries and the funeral notices for the last few years, and I saw the stats right in front of me. It was sent to me. In some counties in Ireland, twice as many people have died in 2021 since the needlecraft was introduced than did in 2019. I think we're living in a massive reduction of homo normie. And I do wonder if the secret unknowns, the ones who really run the world, this was a deliberate plan, and they believe it's a humane. Remember George Bernard Shaw, his humane gas. And what did Shaw say in that video? So, madam, would you be so kind as to justify why we should go to the trouble of keeping you alive? Well, isn't that kind of what the needlecraft is doing? It's like, instead of having people come before a committee to justify if they should be exterminated with a humane gas or not, like the Fabians and George Bernard Shaw wanted, H.G. Wells especially. What if it's a case of, so, madam, here's a rather dubious injection series. Would you please justify if you're dumb enough to take it or not? And I think the first one wasn't an annihilator needle. The second one was a killer. And the third one will just be literally to put them to sleep. The booster. Booster. I wonder if there's some kind of a esoteric meaning in that. And booster, shoot them off into space. Cosmism. Anyway, stay alive or whatever, no matter what, as they said in that movie, stay alive until next spring. Because then we will have clarity. Take care of yourselves.